Alright guys, welcome back. Today I was, my dad wanted to invite me back over to his house. My mom's got a new car, and it's a car I've never driven before. It's one I'm definitely interested in driving. So I'm going over there. We're gonna try to shoot some film. And kind of on the way to my dad's house, my parents' house, I thought I would just kind of reminisce a little bit about this car and talk about the 3 mods or purchases that I've made for this car that I sort of regret. And it was actually kind of hard because I love the car and I love pretty much everything I've done to it. It was kind of hard for me to get to 3. But the first one would be the True Forged Mach 5s that I bought. I bought those years ago. You know, I love the look. You know, I was gonna go the SP 500s, and of course this was before I met James at Wheel Lab. I got the shirt on now. I love James, I love Wheel Lab. If you guys are looking for forged wheels, wheellab.us. Okay, James will take the best care of you. He's local to me. I love the guy. He's gonna be in my wedding. It's great. Anyways, I wanted the SP 500s. The True Forged were a little bit less. So I'm like, you know what? I'll give them a try. But kind of where I ended up not liking them, and this is part my fault, is I went and clear powder coated them because the wheels I had before were polished classics, and I hated the upkeep on them. And you know, I'm like, I'll try the clear powder coat, and the cloudiness in the finish just kind of took away from how much I liked the wheels. And then the other thing that I did that I kind of regret was the tire choice. I've had almost all tires. I've had the 555, I've had some Nittos, I've had the BFG drag radials, I had the BFG KDWs, which are the ones that look like the flame pattern. They don't make those anymore. I've had the R888s, I've had the R888Rs, and now I got the TQs, the Toyo TQs. And guys, I'll just tell you, just get the Toyo TQ. And if you can, get it in the 315, 35, 18 size. It lifts the car up in the back just a little bit. It's a 26.5 inch tire, close to 27. It just gives it a nice amount of rake and really helps with your ground clearance. As well as it doesn't float at high speeds, and it hooks up pretty great with the power, to be honest. On the True Forged, I went and put on 335 R888s on an 11-inch wheel. And I know a lot of guys do run the 335s out there. I just didn't like it. I just didn't like the amount of bulge. And I got some pictures that I'll put in. It's just like you look at how much of the tread is actually touching the ground. Only about 315 of the 335 is actually touching the pavement. So what's the point? Okay, the more money, you're not gonna necessarily hook up any better. They do look okay if you don't mind the bulge. I just think on an 11-inch wheel, your best bet is a 315. That's just my personal opinion. I've had a lot of setups. That's just my opinion. Kind of the last thing that I didn't like about the True Forged would be the weight. You know, the benefit of forged wheels, at least to me, aside from the strength, is the weight. You know, losing rotational mass makes a huge difference in how the car drives. How it accelerates, brakes, handles, even the feel of the steering is changed when you run a forged lightweight wheel. My BC Forged that I have now are like 21.5 pounds, or like 21.8, I think. If memory serves me correct, my True Forged were really heavy. I'm talking close to 30 pounds. I mean, they weren't that much lighter than cheap Chinese cast wheels. So that was probably my biggest regret. It's not that they didn't look good. They were a decent quality wheel. I ended up finding a local buyer who picked them up, and they actually still might be around in my area. I'm gonna try to figure that out. So that would be probably the thing I've regretted the most. The next mod that I probably regret would have been my Terminator engine bay cover. You know, I see a lot of guys run them. I see a lot of guys that have a lot of great success with them, covered to fit right. It just didn't look as good. I don't know. More so than that, if you own a Terminator, which I guess if you're on my channel, chances are you might. Our hoods don't shut that great. It's just how it is. It's always been that way and probably will always be that way. I actually modified the latch in mine. I ended up seeing on SVT Performance, and I did the mod, and it helped huge. But it's still, you gotta drop it from about 3 feet to get it to shut. So that's one thing. I regretted the purchase because, you know, it looked great in pictures, but in person, I never liked it. And of course, I ended up throwing away my OEM one, and I regretted that. And I ended up having to buy another OEM radiator cover because I could just never, I was truly never satisfied with the fit of it. So that would be number 2. And like I said, I really haven't regret a lot of my purchases. So number 3 was kind of a struggle. You'd either be A, running the Gates RPM belt that I went and completely obliterated while racing a friend's ZR1. You know, I had heard rumors that Hellcats were snapping these belts because you have them too tight. And I said, you know, it won't happen to me. And of course, I snapped it and thought it blew the motor again. I've had a few of those thoughts. It would either be that or it would be the TVS. And I didn't want to mention it at first because I didn't want this to turn into a Whipple versus TVS. Everybody's arguing. Okay, why can't we just be friends? Okay, seriously, guys. I had Whipple forever. I bought like the very first batch of 2650s. I bought it because of how great the 2.3 TVS did. And I said, you know what? This 2.65 is going to be the cat's ass. And I was one of the first 10 or first 8, however many they had shipped out. And, you know, it was kind of hard because I didn't have an intake for it. I had to buy the Whipple Crusher intake, and then you had to find like a different coupler. It was kind of a pain in the butt, but I ended up getting all of it. And then you open the manual and find out you got to Thor hammer your radiator crossover, which I didn't really like. And then kind of the power numbers started trickling out. I didn't really like that either, but I was stuck with it. I had already sold my Whipple, and you know, I just got lucky. A guy out in California wanted to buy it. I gave him like $500 off what I ended up paying for it, and went back to Whipple. So that would probably be my 3rd regret. Other than that, I've loved almost every minute of this car, except when I break it, which is not that often. It happens, but it's not that often. So that's about it, guys. I'm only a few minutes from my parents' house. You're gonna have to stay tuned. I will say it's a 6.2 liter supercharged V8, and my mom's gonna be driving around in it, which kind of worries me a little bit because my mom gets a heavy foot, which is probably also where I've gotten mine. I've always said if you're into cars, you won't have money to do drugs. So that's about it, guys. Thanks so much. Stay in touch.